With Jalen Hurts hurt, could the Philadelphia Eagles be in for a world of hurt as well against Dallas Cowboys? We're going to talk about that and much more with far less puns on today's episode of Locked On NFL.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, football fans? Welcome into another episode of Locked On NFL, streaming live for you here. It's technically the Tuesday episode, but we're getting this in Monday night because big news across the NFL. Luke Braun and myself here to break it all down for you. It is your daily podcast breaking down all the biggest stories from around the NFL. Right around 30 minutes, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much, as always, for making us your first listen of the day. As I mentioned, we got Luke Braun in the house at Luke Braun NFL on Twitter. Myself, Ross Jackson, at Ross Jackson Nola on Twitter. And today's episode of Locked On NFL brought to you by Ultimate Football GM. I am absolutely addicted to this game. All you have to do is head over and you can download the app by searching ultimate-gm.com. Then you can look it up in all of the different app stores, all that good stuff. Our users are going to be able to get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On in all caps in the game store. Luke's going to tell you more about Ultimate Football GM in a little bit, but right now we got a couple things we're going to go through today. As always, Yike of the Week, because it is Tuesday. After all, that's what we do here. We must yike. There are no other options.
It is, if you're watching live, which you should, on Locked On NFL YouTube channel, it is Monday, but this will be
yes, but it will be the Tuesday episode. And then we are going to rank a crazy week 15 of finishes. We're going to give our top finishes in order. But first, Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts dealing with a right shoulder injury. Luke, before we turn things over to Gino Camilleri from the Locked On Eagles podcast, if Jalen Hurts can't go this weekend, it's a Saturday game. It's a short week. It's up against the Dallas Cowboys. They're one win away from clinching the number one seed in the NFC. I mean, are they going to be in trouble here, or could you still see them notching a win a little bit later this season?
So the betting markets sure think that this hurts them against the Cowboys. The line shifted like 4 points on BetOnline and other markets around. So that, I guess, is what the public thinks of that. But also it hurts Jalen Hurts' MVP odds, which
yes, of course,
were at like minus 120, minus 150. It seemed like the leader in the clubhouse right now for MVP. They go way up because it's just so much harder to win that when you miss time. So for that stuff, but for both the Eagles and Cowboys, honestly, their fates are pretty sealed headed into the postseason. The Eagles are one win away from clinching the one seed. Or I think one Vikings and Cowboys loss. That's all they need to.
I see.
That could happen too. So they could still lose out and get the one seed anyways. But that feels okay. And for the Cowboys, also pretty much locked into the 5 seed. They already clinched the playoffs, so they're in somewhere. And it would take some pretty intense stuff to happen for them to, like, they would have to lose out and somebody would have to win out, or they would not being in specifically the 5 seed is a pretty unlikely outcome for the Cowboys. So they're just watching the NFC South with great interest to see who they'll play, where they'll travel.
Watching the NFC South with great interest,
except for the Dallas Cowboys in particular, so that they can make their travel plans.
That's right. That's pretty much it.
So for as much as this winning the NFC East is huge and potentially the 1 seed is like what we're talking about here. The actual game itself is not like this must win thing for the Eagles. They got your Saints next week. They just go win that one. And then everything is fine. And you get the 1 seed and you can rest week 18 if you want.
Yeah, they're only one win away. For more on this, before we take a look at who would be in for Jalen Hurts or whether or not the Eagles could pull it off anyway, here's Gino Camilleri, the Locked On Eagles podcast.
Arguably the worst possible news has just come out of the NovaCare complex, with Jalen Hurts being reported to have a sprained shoulder. I'm Gino Camilleri, host of the Locked On Eagles podcast, to bring you the news that Jalen Hurts, quarterback one himself, and the front runner for the MVP will apparently be doubtful for this Saturday's matchup against the Dallas Cowboys, suffering an injury in that game to the Chicago Bears in the third quarter. He played the rest of the game with that injured shoulder. Good news is, according to John Clark from NBC Sports Philly, the x-rays came back negative. He should be a full go for the playoffs and nothing is broken. Hopefully this is just precautionary, but it is now Gardner Minshew's battle to step into this quote-unquote system and hopefully continue to thrive on offense and get another victory over the division rival Dallas Cowboys. I'm Gino Camilleri, host of the Locked On Eagles podcast.
So I think Gino was throwing a little bit of shade right there when he said into this quote unquote system. So let's go to that conversation. There have been some narratives out there, and this always happens, right? But there have been some narratives out there that the Philadelphia Eagles system is what makes Jalen Hurts successful and that he wouldn't be successful without it, blah, blah, blah. To me, it's a dumb narrative. Like, let me just be completely honest.
Weird thing.
It's a stupid narrative. Like, I hate it. I hate the idea that you could sit there and say, hey, this guy performs well with the players around him and the system that was built around him and that he helped to build, and somehow that's a knock on that player. Yeah. It's just weird to me.
The Eagles built an entire offense around Jalen Hurts' skill set and his skill set in particular, which if you're an Eagles fan looking for a reason to doom, it's that, right? It's that This is built around Hurts and Hurts specifically, and how much of that can Minshew also do. But like it's like when Lamar Jackson got MVP, and it's like they built that around him,
right?
That he and he alone is that offense. If you stick Kirk Cousins or Andy Dalton into either of those schemes, that offense doesn't work the same way.
But I'll watch it.
The thing that's most astounding to the Eagles about the Eagles offense to me is that every drive feels like you're going up against a different offense. Mm-hmm. It's like they have like 17 different pitches that they can go to. So if some of that stuff doesn't work because Hurts is out, it's like I feel like they might be fine. Yep. But yeah, to use that, like, one of the best offenses in the entire league is designed around that guy. He's actually not good. Like, the mental gymnastics are incredible. Yeah. Are you going to hurt yourself reaching that hard? Make sure you drink your water. Don't cramp up.
Yeah, I hope you stretched first. Like, that's wild, man. That's wild. But no, I completely agree with you. And so now it's going to be Minshew Mania is back. Can the Philadelphia Eagles win with Gardner Minshew? I think the thing that you highlighted there is that the Philadelphia Eagles have so many different pitches, so many different ways that they can go, that it's still hard to count them out, even without Jalen Hurts on the field. And that shouldn't be a knock to Jalen Hurts. It's just that the supporting cast is good. And you have a guy that has been an NFL starting quarterback before, one of the better backups in the NFL when you've got a guy like Gardner Minshew, which isn't to say that he should be a starter again or anything like that. He's just one of the better backups with the experience that he has. And he can facilitate an offense. He can even improv a little bit and do a little bit of those things. So I think you will see the Philadelphia Eagles offense change without Jalen Hurts, but are they in trouble? I don't really think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And you don't get to, what are they, 13-1 right now?
Yeah.
You don't get to 13-1 on the back of one player. Right. That is a team thing. Like, that is a lot of people get to have their credit and take their piece of the pie when you're 13-1.
Right.
I think the Eagles will be fine, especially if Gino's thing is right and it's not a long-term thing. If they go into the playoffs with a backup quarterback, then I think all bets are off.
Different.
But so long as Jalen Hurts is back by the time the Eagles play their next meaningful game, which honestly, considering how close they are to the 1 seed, these last 3 games are not that meaningful to them. Mm-hmm. Even though, of course, I'm sure Eagles fans are screaming at me like, but we want to kill the Cowboys, which fair. Who doesn't?
Completely get it. Completely get it.
Who doesn't? But Drew Pearson pushed off. But like, they can kind of turtle up and buy some time to get Jalen Hurts back, get him healthy. They're not going to want to push him back on the field for week 18 if they don't need it and all that stuff. And that's a good spot to be. You just got to hope he's not out for more than a month.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wholly expect, I've seen this movie before, wholly expect that Jalen Hurts will be perfectly healthy by the time that the New Orleans Saints travel to Philadelphia next week in week 17, and all will be well, even if they lose the game against the Dallas Cowboys. It will not matter. Coming up next, Wild finishes all around the NFL. Historic finishes like the Minnesota Vikings. Astounding finishes like the Las Vegas Raiders. We're going to rank our favorite finishes from Week 15 and, of course, get you our Yike of the Week as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On NFL.
Before we get into that, let me talk to you about my favorite new app. It's Ultimate Pro Football GM. You can download the app. Just search that on the App Store or go to ultimate-gm.com. It's a team management app. So for everybody who loves thinking about the offseason and everything, and for some teams, it's all you're thinking about. You're already looking at draft prospects. You want to think about free agents, managing the salary cap, drafting a team, building a dynasty. It scratches that itch. You can go to, once again, ultimate-gm.com. or download it on the App Store. All of it is in a challenging and realistic game world, and you can even get into a league with other people.
That's what we're doing.
Locked On NFL listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On, all caps, in the game store. That's Locked On in all caps. Make sure you check that all out today. Download the game. Just visit ultimate-gm.com or just look it up on the App Store. I also want to talk to you about Turo. Turo is the ultimate car sharing marketplace. Hosts may even bring that car to you, and it doesn't matter what you need. There is something on Turo, whether it's a big, spacious like SUV because you have a whole family, got to keep everybody in tow, or whether you're just looking to test drive something that maybe you're thinking about buying, you can use Turo for that. Or if you just need an affordable way to get from point A to point B or something to drive you around while you're on a trip or something, Turo is great for all of that. So go to Turo.com. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Forget boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com. Turo.
All right, everybody, continuing on with this episode of Locked On NFL. We appreciate you so much for making us your first listen of the day, every day for your second listen. Make sure you go and check out Locked On Sports today as well. Get all the news around the world of sports around 20 to 25 minutes, including Luke Braun. Luke Braun was on Monday's episode talking about the massive comeback by by the Minnesota Vikings, which I'm sure took a lot out of you, Luke. I watched your live episode afterwards.
I'm still tired. But the postcast is a disaster. I could not put a sentence together because of that. Locked On Vikings postcast. After every game, you can find me processing in real time whatever random horrors the Vikings inflict on me and Sam Ekstrom this time.
It was
insanity.
It was such a wild game, but it wasn't the only wild finish across the NFL. Luke, you have a list of quote unquote wild finishes, and we're gonna rank them for wildest to least wildest to most wildest.
Yeah, give me your top three. I'll give you all the close games of Week 15. So you had the Vikings-Colts games, crazy one. You had the Bills winning in that snow globe game, last-second kick, Bills scooping out the snow to end that Saturday. You had Eagles-Bears was a close game, came down to an onside kick attempt. Lions-Jets ends on a missed 58-yard field goal. Chiefs-Texans goes into overtime, walk-off Jerick McKinnon touchdown. Cowboys-Jaguars, walk-off pick six.
Yeah, love those.
For a massive upset from the Jaguars to the Cowboys that we've been talking about. They are in a weird spot. Your Saints won a tight one against the Falcons. And then you also had the Titans-Chargers game, which ends on a last-second field goal. Give me your top three of those particularly tight games, or even more one-score games, a couple of 8-point games.
I'm gonna add one more to your list. The New England Patriots losing to the Las Vegas Raiders.
That one. Was that one weird? Did anything crazy happen on
the quarterback draw that turned into fumble-rooski situation that turned into Mac Jones
Stevenson
being
back
stiff-armed.
to Myers,
to
Chandler
oblivion.
Jones. It's the 2-3-6 double play.
So with those in mind, here's my order. Number 3, as in least craziest of the 3, right? But all relative. Number 3, Las Vegas Raiders beating the New England Patriots on that weird, wild, wacky play. So that's number 3 for me. Number 2, I've got the Jacksonville Jaguars pick 6 closing out the Dallas Cowboys. to me, that one's a little bit higher just because for me, like if you ask me like what class of the NFL the Las Vegas Raiders and New England Patriots are in, I'd probably put them in the same class. But if you ask me what class the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Dallas Cowboys are in, yeah, like the upset element of it, definitely up there. And for those of you that are watching live, give us your list of your top 3 finishes as well.
Yes.
So 3 for me, Las Vegas versus New England. Number 2, Jacksonville versus Dallas. And then number 1, of course, it was history, Luke. The Minnesota Vikings 33-point comeback against the Indianapolis Colts. I love that game so much, I rewatched it today for funsies.
Yeah. I, too, have rewatched that game, but only specific parts of it. Okay, so same 3 for me. Although I do want to still shout out the Texans Chiefs because that was a walk-off, and I almost did it over the pick or the pick 6.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 for me is actually going to be the Vikings game because we're talking wild finishes, right? The comeback was incredible, but that was a wall-to-wall, like one thing happening kind of slowly burning.
Yep. Whole second half
finish to that game. And because it was the craziest comeback, it's going to make the list. It's going to be 3. But the actual finish to that game was 2 punts in overtime and then a field goal. We were thinking maybe a tie, which would be the most anticlimactic way to end that ever, right?
Been very
for
Vikings,
me, second is that pick 6. It's just so shocking, you know?
Yep.
And again, like I thought about the Jerick McKinnon touchdown, but they were like kind of down there already. And it felt like that it was the Chiefs, you know, kind of felt like it was, okay, this is inevitable. It's just a matter of how. The Cowboys were driving and tipped ball, pick 6, Jaguars win. And it's like the shock of that hits you. And then the shock of the fact that it was that big of an upset. Yeah. And it like kind of came in waves. But to me, one of the craziest things I've ever seen was the Jacoby Myers Raiders one. It's just, I think I skipped it because I forgot it was a football game. It was just one play that exists in like isolated in time. I've never seen anything like, there's so many times I've said this year. You'll never see a game end like that again.
I love Nicholas Martel's question here. What was Mac Jones supposed to do if he caught that? Like, what was Jacoby Myers thinking?
What was he thinking? Nicholas Martel's big time Locked On Vikings question asker.
Love that.
Hey, buddy.
Has a similar list to mine. Actually, the same list to mine in terms of the 3-1.
But that is the craziest thing I've like ever seen a game end on ever. And it's just the biggest like brain fart. Because my theory
series of brain farts,
and maybe Mike Debate at Locked On Patriots has more on this, but my theory right now is that Ramondre Stevenson just flipped it back and like a yard, like basically just handed it back to Jacoby Myers, saying, "Hey, maybe you can make something happen, but otherwise just go down and it'll be overtime. It's fine." There wasn't a lot of risk to that lateral. Yeeting that thing 30 yards across the field, there's a little bit of extra risk to that.
A little bit.
Just heaving that thing up like it's the bouquet at a wedding. Like,
so good. So I listened to Mike today talk about that. Mike Debate, host of Locked On Patriots. He's got some great insight on exactly how that play broke down, what happened, what went wrong, which is like everything. But basically the idea was that it was a draw call and that Ramondre Stevenson, exactly like you mentioned, just kind of tried to improvise a little bit too much. And then it went back to Jacoby Myers. And then Jacoby Myers did whatever the hell it was that he was doing and whatever the hell it was that he was thinking.
It's like he forgot what the score was and he thought it was a desperation moment. You know?
Like my thing
if I'm getting laterals, must be a lateral situation.
Right. Yeah. So I guess I'll just keep lateraling until something happens.
Yeah.
So, you know,
it just takes it.
What do you call it? Not peer pressure, but groupthink.
Groupthink? Muscle memory, kind of. Like.
Yeah. Just like, oh, okay, we're lateraling here. So that ended up turning into just like Jones on Jones crime at the end of it. It's
like when two dogs run by and another dog has to.
I got to run too.
It's time. What are we running toward or from? Who knows? We run.
Yeah. Right, exactly right. So yeah, no, I hear you 100%. I'm gonna keep. I appreciate the idea behind that Minnesota Vikings win, but man, still like seeing that field goal go through in overtime was awesome for me. I'm sure it was awesome for you and everything too. But that's
I'll
great.
Definitely remember that one forever. That was. I was watching that one. Usually, I'm not like alone when I watch it. I'm not gonna like freak out too much.
Yeah.
You know, like girlfriend's home and I'm not going to be too crazy, but I was alone this time. I was flipping out. Dance like nobody's watching.
Yeah. It is a very different experience when you watch a football game like that. And then when you watch it by yourself with no one around to see how you react. That's the whole can of worms right there.
Nobody's around to judge but a couple of rabbits.
Coming up next, we're going to get to our Yike of the Week. But, Luke, you have a rule for this week's Yike of the Week.
We can't say Jacoby Myers.
We can't
all right?
pick Jacoby
that one
Myers.
is too easy.
We can't
come
pick
up with a
Jacoby
couple
Myers.
other
So we'll get to that as we continue on to wrap up today's episode of Locked On NFL.
Yep. But first, hey, daily fantasy, still DFS. A lot of people are into it. I don't like it in the normal way, though. I much prefer PrizePicks, where you don't have to go compete with a bajillion people. You don't have to come up with a whole big lineup and try to do it. How about just you versus the house? PrizePicks has a projection. You go more than or less than. If you are smarter than PrizePicks, and you're right, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. So for a 100% deposit match up to $100, you can go download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com. And when you sign up, use promo code Locked On. That means if you put in $100 on your first entry, you can get $100 slapped right on top of it. Put in 50, get 50, etc. That is, once again, promo code Locked On, all one word, at prizepicks.com or on the PrizePicks app.
All right, y'all, we are wrapping up this early Tuesday episode edition of Locked On NFL, the way that we always do here on Tuesdays. Luke Braun, Ross Jackson here with you, bringing you the Yike of the Week, the worst thing that happened this week. I have to ask, before we dive in, can't pick Jacoby Myers, but can I still pick something that's associated with that play?
Yes.
All right. I will start us off if that's okay. I know you've got one ready to go. Mine's going to be pretty quick because we kind of already broke this down. I'm going Matt Patricia. I
thought you were going to say Mac Jones for getting posterized.
No,
not that
none
it's
of
his
this
fault
is
or that anybody expected him to do any better there. It just looks like
just get out of the way, Mac.
It's just aesthetically poor.
Watching like it's aesthetically poor. Watching like NBA games and it's like a one-on-one situation and one guy's way smaller than the other guy and he's under the rim and he just kind of moves out of the way. That's what Mac Jones probably should have done.
Jones did
but
his
good
best.
for him.
Good for him. Yeah.
And after the game, you know what Mac Jones said? Mac Jones said, I should have made the tackle. It's on me. I should have made the tackle. Yeah. So it became
quarterback energy.
Yeah, 100% quarterback injury. But energy. I'm going Matt Patricia on this one because why are you calling a draw, homie? Like, if you say, because he said that the only reason why they ran the play was to run the clock out. They didn't try a Hail Mary because they didn't feel like they had the arm to get that in there. But if you're going to run the play to run the clock out, then just kneel the damn thing. Like, what are you doing?
Timeouts or something? Because there was like 3 seconds left. So is it like you call a play that's going to take 3 seconds or something?
Maybe, but we see this all the time. Like, it's not like Las Vegas would have like bull rushed on the on the kneel if they would have just like taken it and then taken a couple of steps back and then kneel. Like, it wouldn't have been a big deal. Like, they would have been fine. Everything. It's so I don't understand it. I think just kneel it and let it run out.
No timeouts remaining. Yeah.
No, there was nothing there. There was no reason to do that. And so take the knee, go to overtime. Everyone was ready to play for overtime. I mean, except for Chandler Jones, but that didn't click until later.
Chandler Jones said, "We're going home. I got Christmas shopping to do. We're done."
Yeah, I'm finished here. But he didn't click into that mentality until he Patrick Peterson the ball out of the air, and all of a sudden he runs over Mac Jones on his way to a game-winning touchdown. So Matt Patricia, yike.
I want to just tack on to that. Matt Patricia on the sideline as Jacoby Myers winds up to fire the wedding bouquet, arms up in the air. He's ready for it. It's so funny looking. It's like a great image taken moments before disaster.
So
aesthetically poor. The story of the 2022 New England Patriots.
100%.
Mine also goes to a defensive touchdown that was a walk-off. Noah Brown.
Oh, man.
Diving catch. Difficult catch. But tips it up right into the arms of a waiting defensive back. You got to bring that one in the clutch. This is overtime. This is, late December football. Everything matters.
Yeah.
You got to pull that one in. And the Cowboys in general, can we talk about this? They barely escaped the Texans. And then the Jaguars beat them in overtime. Is everything okay in Dallas?
Fraud watch in Dallas?
Fraud watch?
Fraud watch in Dallas?
It's a tailspin, right? I mean, look, the Rams slumped in November last year. It turned out okay. Like, you can come back from it. But for me, if I'm Dallas, because I'm so stuck, unless you're going to dream about taking the 1 seed from Philly, if you're Dallas and you're so stuck in the 5 seed, to me, it's like, okay, you got 3 games to pull out of whatever the hell this is.
Yeah. No, it's rough in Dallas right now, but now all of a sudden, and you know what else though? Like the Dallas narrative, if Jalen Hurts can't go, National Fraud League, if Jalen Hurts can't go and Gardner Minshew goes out there and beats the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, that's built in yikes stuff for next week.
Imagine losing to the Jaguars 2 weeks in a row.
Yikes. But that would only further the kind of question marks around the Dallas Cowboys, who then have to prove themselves in the playoffs.
Right. And here's what I'm going to say about the Cowboys too. Everybody's kind of giving them it's like a foregone conclusion that they're just going to stroll into whatever comes out of the NFC South and win without lifting a finger. That might be Tom Brady, man.
That might still be Tom Brady.
Good this year, but one game is all it takes.
Yeah, I was close to making Tom Brady the yike of the week because he threw 4 picks in that loss against the Cincinnati Bengals. There was the whole Giovanni Bernard situation there too, but that's all gotten blown up in a whole different way I don't want to touch. And so it's a whole thing. But I mean, that's still a team that's going to be dangerous in the playoffs. That's still Tom Brady. I don't know.
Or this stupid plucky Sam Darnold Panthers, although losing to the Steelers kind of gets rid of that. Can we pour out the whole NFC?
Can we just send somebody else? Can we send
somebody will go to the playoffs? And
let's just send the entire NFC East instead. This.
Agreed. Although 4 or 5 matchup any given Sunday, they'll be at home. Hard to go on the road and win in the playoffs, no matter who you are.
Yeah. So we'll see. Hopefully, Dallas. Not on fraud watch for the Dallas Cowboys fans. Hopefully, very much on fraud watch for the Philadelphia Eagles fans. And I think we'll figure all that out here on Saturday, Christmas Eve. Speaking of, happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everybody watching the show, listening to the show that's here live or later. We very much appreciate you, and we thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Locked In NFL. Make sure you come back on Wednesday. James, Tony, they're going to get you all taken care of, looking at power rankings. Be interesting to see where the Dallas Cowboys actually fit in now after a loss to Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll see. Maybe Locked On's going to put them on fraud watch as well. And of course, if you
Vikings will go down a couple spots because they don't have a BCS quality loss yet.
Oh, gosh. So we'll have all of that here for you as we continue on throughout the week here on Locked On NFL. And, of course, Luke and I will be back with you next Tuesday after the holiday. We appreciate you so much for making us your first listen of the day every day. Don't forget to also go and check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, getting all the insight from the local experts so that you know everything going on around the world of sports. Got that all for you here on the Locked On, or really just the Locked On Podcast Network. Appreciate you as always. Y'all take care, stay safe, take care of each other, and we'll see you here soon. Once again, it's Locked On NFL, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.